By now, you've heard the term climate change, but are you aware of the direct impact it's having on our lives?
Meteorologist Austin Cheney looks into the effects of our changing climate and how it's more than just an increase in temperature.
Severe thunderstorms, hurricanes, flash floods, all are examples of extreme weather found around the globe, but these weather extremes are changing. A lot of folks hear the word climate change and the thought process immediately goes to heat. But climate change is so much more than just heat. It's entire systems in the atmosphere working differently. Take, for example, the water cycle. Water evaporates from a body of water, rises in the atmosphere, cools and condenses into clouds, and eventually those cloud droplets fall back down towards the earth as rain or snow. When you have a warmer atmosphere and there's more warmth in that system, the entire water cycle becomes supercharged and you end up with more frequent, heavier rains.
5 acres or so?
I spoke with Dr. Elizabeth Hawkins with the Ohio State Extension Office, and she says the climate here in the Miami Valley is changing, particularly when it comes to rainfall.
We've seen over the last decade or so really an increase in the amount of rain that we get, especially in the spring and the fall.
And all of that extra rainfall may not necessarily be a good thing.
The soil doesn't have the ability to absorb that as quickly, so we end up with water laying in the field, and that's even harder to get rid of when we don't have a lot of sun activity or wind to help dry it off.
According to Climate Central, Dayton saw its hourly rainfall intensity increase by 18% from 1970 to 2021. That means the rainfall rate, a measure of how hard it's raining, is 18% greater now than it was in 1970. Extra rain coming in bunches is something that farmers like Scott Anderson, owner of Advent Christmas Tree Farm in Englewood, know all too much about.
So what we end up having with any appreciable amount of rain is standing water.
As Anderson explained to us, standing water is bad for the roots of Christmas trees.
When we have standing water, what that does is that displaces the oxygen in the soil. And so trees, just like any living thing, requires oxygen to breathe, especially with the root system. The trees will struggle. If you have standing water for long periods of time, the tree will struggle to get oxygen.
If that wasn't challenging enough to deal with,
there is fungus in the soil everywhere. When you have a lot of water and heat, then what happens is the fungus grows. And it challenges our root systems. It really puts them to the test, and in a lot of cases, the trees can't handle the fungus, and they die.
Farmers make up about 2% of the population.
As for Craig Corey, owner of Corey Farms in Greene County, he says it's all about adapting to change no matter what the weather or changing climate throws at him.
They've had to adapt and innovate for decades, and they take a great amount of risk to produce the food for a hungry nation and a hungry world. And if that planting window is smaller, we have to have larger equipment and just work longer hours, realizing that the next weather forecast, the next forecast has some rain coming in, so we work around the clock to get the crop in the ground before it rains.
Meteorologist Robert Gauthreaux joins me now. And Robert, some of the research that you've done really goes hand in hand with what Austin found.
Yeah, I studied climatology at Louisiana State University and worked under the state climatologist, and it was similar to what Austin was saying. Yeah. It's these more intense rainstorms. Now, speaking for Louisiana, I mean, there's different kind of effects across the country, but in Louisiana, they've noticed that maybe they're not really seeing more storms or even more rain, but what they're seeing are more intense rain. So even just a pop-up shower thunderstorm can flood a parking lot and destroy cars. Right. Yeah, it's insane. And personally, my research, I was looking at humidity, and I've seen that humidity's been climbing, at least in the southeast. So there's a lot of things to look at. Speaking of the intense precipitation, you can see this rainfall intensity map across the country. Now, I mentioned Louisiana, and where I went to school is Baton Rouge, and so you can see that little green dot there, where this rainfall intensity map shows the change in annual average hourly rainfall. I know that's really kind of intense, no pun intended. But what it means is that some of these storms are just creating more intense rainfall. At least down there, you're not seeing more storms or more frequent storms, but more intense rainfall. And we're seeing more intense rainfall across the Midwest as well. You see a lot more green dots, including Ohio and parts of Illinois and Indiana. And at least for the last year or so, We haven't seen, we don't really have much of a, I guess, rain deficit, you could say, because we've seen quite a bit of rain. In fact, you take a look at the moisture deficit for just the last year, you can see that Ohio's looking pretty good, and then really even Indiana too. But it's been hot the last month or so. It's certainly been dry the last month or so. And if you take into account, say, the last 30 days, we've got a little bit of a moisture deficit across the area. In fact, Indiana hasn't seen a lot of rain. You can see they're a few inches below where they typically are this time of year. And you can even see some representation here across the Miami Valley. And as such, there's actually some areas of drought in the Midwest. We weren't seeing this a couple weeks ago, but you can see even scraping into the Miami Valley, there's just some areas, really just the northern part of Mercer County and Auglaize County. You can see this yellow indicating some abnormally dry regions. So I would say that's something we have to watch, but the good news is that we actually are going to see some rain here in the next several days, starting tomorrow. This morning, it was a little warmer. We had fewer places in the 50s. Dayton, we only reached 62 degrees this morning, and then we all pretty much got into the 90s this afternoon. Now, the high temperature tomorrow is probably going to be the same, might be a little bit more humid, but look at the low temperatures. As we head into the morning hours, many places staying in the 70s. I think we'll actually probably bottom out to about 69 degrees in Dayton, so between 5 a.m. and 8 a.m. I think is where we'll likely see some of that, probably even before that actually, between 2 and 5, I think we'll just barely get into the upper 60s. But overall, it will be warmer overnight. That's because there is a little bit more humidity across the region. Right now, we're still hanging on to 80 degrees in Dayton, and you can see the rest of us probably in the 70s. So it won't be that much cooler than the last few nights. In fact, it'll be quite a bit warmer. Winds are coming out of the south around 10 miles per hour. That's a big reason why. We're going to start feeling a lot more humidity tomorrow, but the good news is that we actually don't see much warmer temperatures after that. We actually kind of scale them back a little bit. Futurecast shows us dry into the morning hours Friday. Into the afternoon, we could see some isolated showers and thunderstorms. You can see a look at 9 o'clock here. Will that get in the way of fireworks? It's possible. You might have to look at the radar as you look at some fireworks heading into Friday night. So Friday night, you're looking at fireworks at Fort Loramie and Xenia. Might have to see the chance for some showers, some isolated showers. Saturday and Sunday, though, not looking too bad. And then the actual 4th of July might have to dodge a few more, too. Will it be raining during fireworks time? We'll have to see. But notice next week, chance of pop-up showers many days and temperatures right around 90 degrees.
Thanks, Robert. Ahead of the 4th of July weekend, one Miami Valley woman has a warning for everyone about staying safe.